first lived in Latvia as a diplomat between 1996 and 1999, a few years after Latvia regained independence from the crumbling Soviet Union. I returned to live in Latvia in 2022. This podcast series is based on my observations and experience, with some history and comparisons with my home country of England on aspects of life in Latvia and things to see and experience. On Harold Trevenen Hall. What makes for a thrilling biography? Success in business while simultaneously working as a British spy during the Russian Empire period in Latvia and then during the Russian Revolution, leading a triple life as a businessman, athlete and intelligence agent, being named the father of Latvian football for introducing the sport to the country, and finally being tortured to death by the German Gestapo in Rīga during the Second World War. All this and more is the life of Harold Trevenen Hall. Let's get to know his story. The Hall family arrived in Latvia in the mid-19th century as part of British business expansion into the Baltic region. Harold's father, George Frederick Hutton Hall, was not just a businessman, but also a general in the British Army who established the Ilgūtsiems manufactory in Riga. British-owned factories, such as the Hall's family's Ilgūtsiems manufactory, contributed to Riga's industrial landscape. British companies also imported machinery and manufactured goods, supporting the city's modernisation. British firms were heavily involved in the timber trade, which was a central component of Riga's export economy. British coal imports were also vital for Riga's industrialisation, as sea transport from Britain was more efficient than overland routes from Russia or Poland. Harold was born in Riga on the 30th of September 1884, one of 5 brothers in this prominent British family. He was educated at the elite Radley College boarding school near Oxford, England, before returning to Latvia to join the family business as a manager. I checked the Radley College archives, and there he is in a team photo from 1901 of the college football team. His sporting prowess is an important ingredient in his story. He married Eve Frances Addison in 1911, and they established their family life in Latvia. Unfortunately, Eve died of diphtheria in 1917, leaving him to look after 2 young daughters. He remarried a Latvian woman named Lena, representing his deep connection to his adopted homeland. The family's summer residence in Bulduri, Jūrmala, became a centre of British expatriate social life. Do listen to my episode on Jūrmala. The story of the Hall family in Latvia spans generations and represents the broader story of British influence in the Baltic. Their business ventures, social prominence, and cultural contributions made them central figures in pre-war Latvia. The fact that Harold's descendants now live in Canada, with his grandson becoming a prominent neuroscientist and his great-grandson receiving a football scholarship, brings the story full circle. Upon his return to Latvia, Harold founded the country's first 2 football clubs in 1907. The first was called the British Football Club and was later renamed Britannia. This, unsurprisingly, was for British workers in Latvia. The second club was called the Union and was for Baltic Germans. Interestingly, Harold played for the Union. As you can imagine, in the early years there was intense rivalry between the British Football Club and the Union. 3 sides played in the newly founded Rīga Football League: British Football Club, Union, and Kežāmes, a second German side. British Football Club won the tournament. However, the British team was later disqualified and Union declared the winner. Union won the first Rīga Football Cup, which was also played in 1910. This was a knockout tournament held from 1910 to 1913, when the First World War interrupted sport. Harold was regarded as the father of Latvian football and was the first president of the Latvian Football Union. The Hutton Hall Cup was founded in 1912, named after Harold's father, and became the first real football tournament in Latvia. The Hall family residence at Strasdumuža near Lake Jugla became a centre for sporting activities. Harold was not just a football player and competition organiser, he was also the Baltic long jump champion in 1908 and played in the first ice hockey game in Latvia in 1909. He also raced yachts, wrestled and boxed. A seriously competitive athlete. Harold brought football to Latvia not just as a sport, but as a cultural institution. The rivalry between the British Football Club and Union Riga reflects the multicultural nature of early 20th century Latvia, with influences from Britain, Baltic Germany, and Latvia all contributing to the scene. The Hutton Hall Cup, named after Harold's father, became a symbol of the sport's growing importance. The Hall family managed the Ilgucians manufactory, a significant industrial enterprise in Riga. Harold took over the business after his father died in 1912 and navigated the challenging economic and political landscape. British commercial ties with Riga date back centuries, but the 19th century saw a marked increase in British traders, industrialists, and professionals settling in the city. By the early 20th century, British merchants were well established, often involved in the import and export of goods, such as shipping, timber, textiles, and machinery. The Armitstead family, notably George Armitstead, exemplified British success in Riga. Armitstead, born into a British merchant family, became mayor of Riga from 1901 to 1912 and oversaw a period of rapid modernisation, industrial growth, and civic development. His family owned factories and properties, and he was a prominent figure in society. Do listen to my episode on George Armitstead. British businessmen founded St Saviour's Anglican Church in Riga in the 19th century, and this became a focal point for the British community, providing spiritual, social, and charitable support. The church was built with British bricks and even a shipload of British soil, symbolising the community's enduring connection to their homeland. Do listen to my episode on St Saviour's. In addition, Riga had a British club serving the roughly 300-strong expatriate community, offering a venue for networking, socialising, and maintaining British traditions. The British community, although small, was influential and well integrated into Riga's cosmopolitan society. They participated in civic life, philanthropy, and cultural events, often collaborating with Baltic German and Latvian elites. Harold was also honorary chief of the Rīga, Jomala, and Bulduri firefighters associations, which strengthened his status in Latvian society. Harold Trevenen Hall's life in Latvia extended far beyond his contributions to football and business. During some of Latvia's most turbulent periods, Hall served as a British intelligence operative, playing a significant role in covert operations that have remained largely hidden from history. Shortly after the founding of Britain's Secret Intelligence Service, later known as MI6, in 1909, Hall was recruited into its ranks. His established position in Latvian society as a businessman and sports enthusiast provided perfect cover for intelligence gathering. His language skills, local connections, and respected status in the community made him an ideal agent operating in the Baltic region during a period of immense geopolitical upheaval. One of Hall's lesser-known assignments occurred in 1918 when he was appointed vice-consul in Terijoki, Finland, now Zelenogorsk, Russia. This diplomatic position served as cover for intelligence operations during the tumultuous period following the Russian Revolution. From this strategic location near the Russian border, Hall was able to gather critical intelligence on developments in revolutionary Petrograd, later called St. Petersburg. Perhaps one of the most dramatic episodes in Hall's intelligence career was his involvement in a dangerous mission to Kronstadt in May 1919. This operation was connected to the rescue of fellow British agent Paul Dukes, who was known as the Man with 100 Faces for his remarkable ability to disguise himself. The mission involved significant risk, as Kronstadt was a heavily fortified naval base and a stronghold of revolutionary activity. Hall's intelligence activities placed him in proximity to the infamous Lockhart plot, a controversial Allied conspiracy to assassinate Bolshevik leaders Vladimir Lenin and Leon Trotsky and overthrow the newly established communist regime. While direct evidence of Hall's involvement in this plot remains limited, his presence in Petrograd during this period and his connections to other British agents implicated in the conspiracy suggest he may have had knowledge of or peripheral involvement in these operations. From 1919 to 1921, Hall worked for the British Passport Service in Latvia, which intelligence historians recognise as another standard cover for continued espionage activities. This position allowed him to maintain his intelligence network during the critical period of Latvia's independence and early statehood. During Latvia's struggle for independence between 1918 and 1920, Hall leveraged his position and connections to support the emerging Latvian state. His activities during this period helped strengthen British-Latvian relations at a crucial time when the new Baltic nation was seeking international recognition and support against both German and Soviet threats. Throughout the interwar period, Hall continued to balance his business interests with intelligence work. The Hall family's management of the Ülgücüyem's manufactory, a significant industrial enterprise in Riga, provided both economic influence and valuable cover for gathering information on political and economic developments in the region. Even as World War II engulfed Europe, Hall maintained his intelligence activities, establishing and maintaining contacts with agents in Sweden and Finland. These connections proved valuable to British intelligence as the geopolitical situation in the Baltic region deteriorated following the Soviet occupation and subsequent Nazi invasion of Latvia. In February 1942, Hall's intelligence career came to a brutal end when he was arrested by the German invading Gestapo on suspicion of connections to MI6. His arrest came during the Nazi occupation of Latvia, a perilous time for anyone with British connections or suspected of espionage activities. Following his arrest, Hall endured nearly a year of brutal torture in Riga Central Prison. The Gestapo subjected him to severe interrogation methods, attempting to extract information about British intelligence networks and operations. Despite this treatment, there is no evidence that Hall betrayed his colleagues or his country. Hall died on the 2nd of February 1943, with the official cause listed as meningitis. However, family accounts and historical evidence strongly suggest his death resulted directly from the torture he endured. According to his granddaughter Iona's recollections, Hall was released from prison very ill after being brutalized and tortured, then thrown on the street in a severely weakened condition, leading to his death. For decades after his death, Hall's grave in Lilupa Cemetery in Jomala was overgrown and abandoned. It was only in 2022 that the Latvian Football Federation, the successor to the Latvian Football Union, recognizing his foundational role in Latvian football, restored his grave and held a memorial ceremony attended by representatives of the Federation and the British Embassy in Latvia. This belated recognition highlights how many aspects of Harold Trevenen Hall's life beyond football remained obscured for decades, particularly his intelligence activities and his tragic final years. The restoration of his grave represents not just a commemoration of his sporting legacy, but also a step towards acknowledging the full breadth of his contributions and sacrifices during Latvia's most turbulent years. The Latvian Football Federation has produced an excellent online account of Harold's life and services to football, researched by Reinas Krīgās from the Latvian Football Federation and Inga Sama from Jomala City Museum. Well worth reading if his story has touched you.